All right. Hello, everyone. Want to welcome you to this live from Northwestern chat. My name is Paul Compton. I'm one of the Senior Assistant Directors of Admission here at Northwestern. And really excited to be able to share with you a little bit about just about Northwestern and about the topics that we're all passionate about. I grew up in Southern California, have been in the Chicagoland area for a little bit of time. I won't tell you exactly how long so you don't figure out my age. But just really excited to be able to talk to you about Northwestern. I'm a current business student in the Kellogg School of Management, but today we're going to really focus on community opportunities, inclusion initiatives, and different ways for you to be able to get connected to campus. And it's a pleasure to be able to welcome my two guests here. So I'll have them introduce themselves. We'll have them explain some of the areas that they cover, and then we'll also open it up as the time for some questions. Kourtney, do you want to start us off?
Sure. All right. Hello, everyone. Or should I say hello, all of my cool wildcats and kittens. So I'm Kourtney Cockrell. I use she, her pronouns. I'm thrilled to be with you all today. I'm the founding director of Student Enrichment Services, which is our office that works with first generation, lower income, and or undocumented Daca students. I was a first-gen student myself way back in the 90s, so I will go ahead and age myself out there, Paul. So, I grew up at a time when being first-gen was not being talked about quite in the same ways that it is today. So it's a real honor and privilege to serve this community. I love the work that I do, and I do it for students. And congratulations to all of you for getting into Northwestern. This is sign language for claps and snaps, so I've been doing this on Zoom all day. So happy to be here.
Deb, do you want to introduce yourself next?
I would be delighted to. Hi, everyone. As Kourtney said, all you cool cats and kittens. My name is Daviree Velázquez Phillip, but folks on campus refer to me as Dav, and so I welcome you to do the same. I have the privilege of serving as the Director for Multicultural Student Affairs. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. A little bit about our office. We serve students of color and or LGBTQIA students and or students who identify as Native and Indigenous and or any other student. So we really have a large and expansive operation, and really that just means that we have a strong desire to serve all of you, and we're very excited to welcome you to campus.
Wonderful. Well, I think for all of you that are tuning in, I just wanted to say that you're so lucky to be able to hear from both of these people. With only two people, as you heard in the descriptions of both of their programs, they cover a lot of different areas. So we're really excited for them to be able to share about the different resources and things like that. One of the questions I think that might be helpful to kind of start off is, if a student was just to come to Northwestern, they're enrolled and they're excited to come, how might both of your offices be able to interact with them and be able to help them find a place on campus where they feel connected and they feel like they have people who are out there to kind of support them in this process? Either one of you can take that question.
Sure, I'll jump in, and then I certainly want to make sure we hear from Deb. We work very closely together. So I really like to think about my office as a first stop shop, not a one-stop shop. So my office is really just a catch-all for connecting you to all sorts of resources across campus, to helping you find community, whatever community looks like to you. So whether that is around first gen initiatives, whether that is around undocumented Daca initiatives, working with students of color. Again, I partner really closely with Dav's team, or gender and sexuality issues. So I really see myself as a place where there's no wrong way to kind of outreach. We're located in Foster Walker in House 6, so we're in a res hall on campus. We have students dropping in all the time. So we have always have free coffee and tea and a couch to kind of just decompress and get connected. The other way is certainly online on our website. You can schedule meetings with any of my staff members. And through social media as well. So we have a pretty robust social media presence and always try to push out ways to engage, connect, and get access to resources online as well.
Thanks, Kourtney. Picking up where Kourtney left off, I love that she said that SES is a first stop shop and not the one-stop shop. As she shared, we work very closely with each other. So a lot of what I might share might sound very familiar, but really it just means that there is a tight-knit community that's here to serve you. So at Multicultural Student Affairs, we serve students who come from marginalized backgrounds. So as I said before, students who identify as people of color, students who identify as LGBTQIA+, you could be first gen, you could be lower income, you could be all sorts of social classes, international students, domestic students, but really it's an opportunity to serve you in a way that engages your identity and celebrates culture. So some of the things that we provide within Multicultural Student Affairs, we are fortunate to have 3 locations. So the first and most historic to us is the Black House, a very deeply loved building on our campus that sits on Sheridan Road at 1914 that's currently undergoing renovation, but will be with us in the new year. And that is a part of our history that's been here since 1968. So really excited to have the Black House as a part of our makeup, our portfolio. You can go to the Black House to hang out for programs, meet staff, faculty, have printing done. Sometimes students are sleeping there, cooking there, you name it, but it's really just an opportunity to be in community with one another while centering Blackness at Northwestern. Our next space is the Multicultural Center. So that one actually just celebrated 20 years. So been on campus for 20 years. That's at 1936 Sheridan. That is a space for all students interact at the intersecting identities. We have a prayer room on the 3rd floor. We have offices for student groups. Some of those groups are Alianza, APAC. We have a couple other spaces for SASA, our mariachi. So you name it. We have lots of different organizations that are reflected in that space, as well as our staff. Again, students hang out. There's programs that happen there regularly. Every night you can find something going on in the Multicultural Center. The 3rd space is the Gender and Sexuality Resource Center. That's in Norris, our student center. It's an opportunity for folks to come together who identify within the LGBTQIA community and or those who are exploring if they are a part of that community or want to be allies for that community. All are welcome, and it's certainly a fun time to be there. I try to spend at least one day a week in all of our spaces. Some of the other things that we provide, as I said, free printing, lots of programming, lots of opportunity to get involved, and then student employment. So we employ around 21 student workers each year, and it's really exciting if you're looking for a way to both be involved, but also to make some cash. It's an opportunity to be a part of our team.
Wonderful. I know some of the people that may have been here may have seen me before. I am the Questbridge liaison, so you may have seen me in the fall with my dog Ruby, but I think that might be a nice question to kind of open up. So if students are affiliated with Questbridge or they are first generation or identify as lower income, does that fall under MSA or does that fall under SES?
Yes, thanks so much for bringing it up. If you didn't, I was definitely going to shout out our Questies, right? So my office is actually pretty new in the world of higher ed. So I'm the founding director and started this office 5 years ago. And much of the organizing that led to the creation of the office were the Questbridge students. We call them Questies on my campus. So we have a really close relationship with the Quest scholars. And for those of you out there who may or may not know, Questbridge is a national scholarship and leadership program that helps identify high achieving students from lower income backgrounds and then helps to place them at highly selective universities. As Paul mentioned, we have the largest Quest chapter of all universities across the campus. We have about 400 Quest scholars. And so Student Enrichment Services is the home to the Quest Plus students. They have an office in our space. We do a lot of leadership development with the board. We partner during our Wildcat Welcome orientation for a huge ice cream social that serves almost 200 students during Wildcat Welcome. And the most important thing to note here, y'all, is that we call it Quest Plus for a reason. So even if you're not a Questbridge match or unmatched student, Quest Plus is open to any student who identifies as lower income and or first generation. So that is definitely something really unique to the Northwestern campus and something I'm really proud of for the students for opening that up to all students who identify in that way. And then one other group that I think is really important to call out here are the student group that's fairly new, focused on our undocumented and Daca students. So it's called AUC, Advancement for the Undocumented and Daca Community at Northwestern. What's really cool is this is a brand new group that is really working closely with both SES and with MSA to really get their brand out there, to start building out programming and really important resources. And in the next couple of weeks, we're hoping to offer a virtual program currently for our undocumented and Daca students, and for many of our students who come from mixed status families, which means that you might have family members, parents, siblings, cousins who are undocumented. And so we're going to do a virtual program to really support them during the pandemic.
That's amazing to hear. That's really encouraging just to hear the different ways of both responding to the community and also offering new opportunities for that. I know that Dav, you mentioned that you loved that Kourtney mentioned SES as the first stop, not the one-stop shop. Can you talk a little bit more about, obviously with the AUC initiative, but other ways that your two offices work together? Dav, as you're a little bit newer here, what was some of those initial interactions or some of those first events you got to work with SES on?
Yeah, absolutely. A little bit of our connection is also Kourtney and I have a beautiful friendship, so that certainly bleeds into our work. We enjoy working with each other because we share the same values and we care about the same student population. So naturally, there are ways that it's SES specific work or MSA specific work, but a lot of times we're together in it. So some of the ways that happens, we might do co-programs together. So as Kourtney just referenced, we're doing an undocumented and mixed status family support space. But a lot of times it's also what are the lived experiences of our first gen and or lower income students who also happen to be trans, who also happen to be queer, or who might also identify as a person of color. And many times we don't want students to feel like they're only showing up as one aspect of who they are, but that they get to live in their wholeness. And together our offices get to hold students in their wholeness, which is really nice. Some of the other things that we do at the end of your time at Northwestern, you'll have a congratulatory, and one of them in particular, the Latinx congratulatory, we'll ask all the first gen students to please rise. And what's really nice is that Kourtney's office, SES, also provides a stole that gets to highlight that you are a first gen student like myself and many of our other students, while also still being able to celebrate at a Latinx congratulatory. And we do that at all of our congratulatories, but it's just a nice way to say, hey, we see you, we know you're a part of multiple communities, and we love that you're a part of multiple communities. Some of the other things that we do, whether it's conferences that we support each other, being able to look at the ways in which our students might be making meaning of something that's happening on campus or maybe social, political in the world. And we need to respond to that as a university. And many times SES and MSA is working together to create that response. So those are just a few, but there are so many other opportunities where we work together.
Awesome, thank you. Dav, I had a question. So because of this pandemic, a lot of the people that maybe are here listening, maybe their graduation ceremonies might be affected or they may not be able to have that. So can you talk a little bit more about some of the other congratulatories and how that works? I really love getting to hear about how both the offices together are supporting people. We're not one faceted individuals, right? None of us are, I'm a first generation college student, but that doesn't identify with everything else that I have. So we all have these different things. Can you talk about some of the other ways that other congratulatories that are around and kind of painting a picture of, even though students are in high school right now, looking towards the end of like, what sort of resources and opportunities are there to celebrate what that means for the accomplishment they've had at Northwestern?
I would be delighted. And I also just want to say, I really feel it for you seniors out there and what you're going through. This is not an easy time. So I love the idea of even being able to think about the future and how we're going to be able to celebrate you when you come to Northwestern. So some of the congratulatories that both we host within MSA, but that we host on campus, because I really want to make sure we shout those out too. The first one comes up in the middle of May, and that is our Native and Indigenous Community Dinner. And that one's really special. It's an opportunity for Northwestern both to honor the Native folks that are within the Chicagoland area, but also honor our roots as an institution and the land that we stand on, really honoring both the plants, our siblings, all the communities that make us who we are. So we honor our seniors during that time, but we also honor the elders of the Native community within the Chicago area. So you'll see all sorts of people coming, all sorts of dancing, food, children running all over, while still being able to pay homage to our seniors who are leaving their mark at the institution. So that's the first one. The next one is our Lavender Graduation. So that happens specifically for our LGBTQIA+ community. And it's really a nice time to celebrate with both family, but also chosen family, the people who are really by your side as you are navigating Northwestern and your future. So you'll graduate, you'll be given a stole that's either a trans flag or a rainbow flag. We always have a keynote speaker, and it's really just an awesome opportunity to be in community with one another. And then we also have our The Joy, which is our Black and African American congratulatory. That one is a blast. Again, family comes, relatives come, students are there. We'll have keynote speakers. We'll hear from an alumni or from an alum. Like it's a lovely opportunity to get together and really allow all those who have uplifted you during your time at Northwestern to see you with your community. And then we have our Latinx one, which I've already spoken about, but also is very similar to the others. A couple others that I know that happen on campus. So obviously we talked about our first gen folks having stoles, and there is a ceremony sorts that happens, and I'll let Kourtney talk a little bit about that. We also have a space for our Muslim students. Hillel also does something for our Jewish students. So there are multiple celebrations that happen based on identity. And what's nice is our students go to all of them, some of them, and then you'll see faculty and staff going to them too, because we want to see you in your wholeness as well.
Thanks. I think that's a great summary, and yeah, just a really nice way to paint the picture of what community looks like here at Northwestern amongst different communities and amongst different identity groups that it is really about being able to explore amongst all those things. So for those of you that are watching, I would encourage you, if you do have any questions, just drop them in the YouTube chat and we'll be able to answer some of them later. I did have a question for Kourtney. I think this might be an SES focused question. Can you talk a little bit about how you support students in financial wellness? I know right now, thinking about, there's been stories about college students who have had to leave campus. What does that look like specifically at Northwestern, but then also in non-pandemic times? What does financial wellness look like, and what sorts of opportunities are there for students to get involved?
Yeah, great question. So I will say that we are working hard to support our students during this time. We have a pretty robust emergency fund process happening in financial aid to support students who have been impacted by COVID. So right when this came out and we went virtual, there was funding available for travel home, for technology needs. We know that not all students have access to Wi-Fi, access to the appropriate types of machines that are going to manage a virtual environment. So students were able to apply for funding to receive that support, travel, home, and technology related support. We're on the quarter system, as you all know, so we just started class actually 2 days ago. Which meant that we just started issuing, refunds for students and financial support around, work study. And for me, it's funny, I've already been planning to work with our Quest Plus students to do a budgeting workshop. Right? This is a really scary time. We don't know how long this is going to happen. We're already thinking about summer programs and summer jobs and summer internships. So we're going to be doing a workshop that really is about making your money stretch, not only for the rest of the quarter, but really thinking about through summer. We want to make sure students are supported with the resources that they need to be to hold each other up during this time throughout summer. In terms of financial wellness broadly, we have a pretty robust financial wellness website. So it's linked through financial aid. And so there's a ton of kind of tips and tricks and strategies for managing your funding and your budget. We have an online vendor that you can kind of, it's an app and you can set up your whole funding profile. You can take quizzes to really learn about like your relationship with money, because everyone has a different relationship. So the website is a pretty robust component, and we're excited to offer more. So my team has been pretty small and lean for the past 5 years. I started as a team of 1. I then added 2 more staff. I'm proud to say that now, as of January of this year, I'm a team of 5, which means I have a programmer on board. And she actually is going to be doing a lot of new types of programs, and financial wellness is something that we're really excited to start offering more programs and resources in that area. So, so much more to come, but like you said, Paul, during this time, we're really thinking about the financial wellness piece, the budgeting piece. And the other aspect to that is really helping students advocate with financial aid. I'm sure all of you have taken, the FAFSA and the CSS profile, and I know that it can be incredibly confusing. So we are here to really try to help you digest that information. So we do a lot around just advocacy and breaking down complicated jargon so that you are aware and understand what's going on with your financial aid package, and then working really closely with financial aid to get you supported.
Awesome. I had one kind of follow-up question for you about that. Is there a limit to how much funding or resources students can get? And then also, speaking as a person that grew up in Southern California, winters are different in Chicago if you are not from here. Can you talk a little bit about how you support students through that transition if they're coming from a place where, like me, they had not really interacted with the cold in that way?
Yes, sure. I will start with the first question. In terms of, is there a limit on funding? I think that we are in the position to be at a really privileged university that has a ton of support from donors and trustees. We have a huge endowment, which means that we really treat students on a case-by-case basis. And so the short answer is there's not really a limit or a threshold. It's really about understanding the student's story and narrative, and then supporting them in whatever ways that we can, right? So there's not really a limit, and there's lots of different funds that are available for students. So happy to talk offline or just to go a bit deeper if there's questions from students about particular funds. Beyond that, winter, yes. So winter in Chicago, in fact, they're saying there may be a wintry mix coming up in a couple days, and yesterday it was 70 degrees. So, Chicago's a funny place, love it, it's home, but it's a funny place when it comes to weather. And we know that preparing for the winter can be really overwhelming. So my office, through donor support for the past 4 years, has provided winter gear for students. So we provide everything from winter coats, gloves, scarves, hats, boots, the whole, gamut there, to make sure that students have what they need, and really to help them understand what they need. A couple of my international students, just talking them through wearing socks, right? Like, I'm somebody in the summer who never has a sock on, so I get it. But in Chicago, you need to make sure you have one socks and sometimes doubling up on socks. So we do a lot of just education around how to prepare for winter. And then we have a process where you just apply for winter gear, and you can get the whole, you can get all of your gear from the SES office.
Awesome. I love that. And that's definitely something that's really, really helpful to know, that like, even in things of like, how am I going to stay warm? Like, there's resources and there's things that we've thought about to really help provide that. Dav, I had a question. You had mentioned Alianza in one of the things that you were talking about. Can you talk about some of the most popular student groups that focus on different aspects of students' identities, and how they might be able to connect to some of those student groups, and maybe what the relationship looks like between student groups and administration?
Absolutely. So I will be transparent that I only see a small fraction of the student groups that exist on campus, because we have 400 plus organizations from everything you can imagine. So from your traditional multicultural student organization to Quidditch for all my Harry Potter HP fans out there. They exist at our institution, so there's certainly something for you. And if there isn't, then you get to create it. But some of the ones that I would say that we interact with the most within MSA are some of those that have been around for a long time, that some of those predate MSA as an organization, because without those student groups, we wouldn't be here today. So first and foremost that comes to my mind is FMO, for members only. And that is our university's version of a Black Student Union or Black Student Alliance. An incredibly powerful organization, one that has strong roots in advocacy and community building, and certainly a space that is both needed and wanted on our campus as a community. So any of our students are welcome to join. Two of my favorite events that they do a State of the Black Union during the fall quarter, where they usually bring a large speaker or a well-known speaker. This year it was one of the actresses from Pose on FX. And then in years past, it's also been like other activists or well-known folks as well. And then their second event that I always look forward to is during Dillo Day, when they have an FMO stage where they get to bring an artist that really gets to reflect a variety of different music interests from our Northwestern community. The next group that I would think of is Alianza, who I mentioned before, which definitely operates like a Latinx student union or a Latinx, Chicanx, Hispanic student union. Certainly puts together a lot of events. One of the ones that you can look forward to in the fall quarter would be Festival, which is an opportunity for all Latinx communities and cultures to be featured. Lots of food, dance, spoken word, education, you name it. And you'll see lots of faculty and staff who come and who bring their families. It's a really nice opportunity for us to be together as a community. The next one that comes to my mind is APAC, which is our Asian Pacific Islander Student Alliance. So if you have like an APIDA organization on campus, and that one is really pan-Asian. So it's an opportunity for folks who identify within the APIDA diaspora to come together, build community, and certainly advocate on campus. The roots of that organization really helped launch our Asian American Studies program. So without them, we wouldn't even have some of our academic programs, which is amazing. Rainbow Alliance would be the next one. And that will be the last one I share, but there's so many more. But Rainbow Alliance serves our LGBTQ students. That's specifically for undergrads, but believe it or not, we have LGBTQIA+ organizations for grad students as well. And what's really nice is that those grad student organizations partner with Rainbow Alliance to provide some mentoring across student levels at the institution. So I just wanted to throw that out there so that when we are talking about resources, I know we'll be talking a lot about faculty and staff and your undergraduate peers, but there's also this graduate student population that's eager to mentor as well.
Yeah, and that's a really great community that's built in on our campus just to have and get connected to students. Kourtney, you had mentioned the Quest Plus Scholars. Are there any other student groups that are affiliated with or run primarily through SES or mentorship groups that might be available?
Yeah, so in addition to Quest Plus and the AUC is our kind of flagship peer mentor program. So it's called Compass and started when I started the office. It was one of the first initiatives I created, really just understanding that first generation lower income students really needed peer support, right? It's one thing for me to kind of tell you as an administrator, kind of tell you about different resources and kind of support you. But when you hear it from a peer, it just really resonates in a unique way. And so the Compass Peer Mentor Program is a peer mentorship program. It's cohort based. And so students come together every Friday night for workshops. And so there's kind of dinner and workshops that really help you to think about your identity. So what does it mean to be a first generation lower income and or undocumented Daca student at Northwestern, right? What does it mean to really navigate in an elite environment? What resources are available? How do you really ensure that you're thriving over your 4 years? So the Compass Mentor Program really helps to address that. The structure, again, works where it's a cohort meeting every Friday night over dinner, and then every other week you're meeting individually with your mentor-mentee match. So all of the students are first generation and or lower income and or undocumented Daca, and then you're matched. Each mentor has about 3 to 4 students that they're matched with. We're in the midst of mentor selection. It's a really competitive process. So every year we get tons of students that are really eager and interested in mentoring first year students. We're in the midst of selecting those students. And just so you all know, it's a fairly small program. There's about 40 to 45 total students. So about 30 to 35 first years and then 8 to 10 mentors.
Awesome. Thank you both for sharing that. So we've talked a little bit about financial wellness and we've talked about the codes. Are there any programs, say like a lot of that is right when you get to Northwestern or adjusting to the first season? What about like in spring quarter? I'm looking for books and I'm worried about how I'm going to be able to pay for some of the books. I wasn't anticipating that many books that I needed to buy. Is there anything that either of your offices do to kind of help support students that find themselves not just at the beginning of their time at Northwestern, but maybe towards the end of the year that is still available for students?
Yeah, I'm happy to take this on, and then Dab, if you want to add as well. Books and supplies is kind of what I live and breathe. It's always a concern. We know that they're really expensive for students. And so we advocate really, really hard to try to find as many resources for students. I'm happy to put in the chat on our website. We have a ton of resources there that help students navigate, but I want to make sure to highlight a couple. One is something called Books for Cats, which is in its second year. And Books for Cats was an attempt to really help reduce financial barriers for students accessing their course material. At the moment, it is just for first-year students. So it's your entire first year. It is mostly STEM courses, although as we move into year 2 and year 3, we're advocating for it to expand beyond STEM. So there are a handful of humanities classes that now qualify. And the latest addition this year is that it also was for second-year students who are going into their organic chemistry track, because that tends to happen your first quarter of your sophomore year. So Books for Cats is a great resource that many students take advantage of. And all of these resources I want to share are based on financial need, right? So we work really closely with financial aid. Financial aid kind of determines eligibility and then sends that information out. So Books for Cats is one. The second is that, students are really savvy. There's a great website on Facebook that's called Free and for Sale. Students just post books and resources that they're no longer using and kind of swap materials and connect with one another. My biggest piece of advice is always just to talk to your faculty member. So many faculty members either have an extra copy of a book, an extra resource, a graphing calculator, whatever type of support you might need, and they're often willing to just give that to you and lend that to you for the quarter. But again, I'll drop a link in the chat so that you have that material ready to go. It's all on the website. But the short answer, Paul, is that it does require being pretty resourceful to figure out kind of the tips and tricks associated with getting your books at the most kind of in the most cost-effective way.
Great, thank you. Thinking a little bit about the students that both of you see, I know that you see some of the same students, you see different students. Can you talk to some of the themes or the issues that you see some of those students interacting with when they're coming in for resources to SES or MSA? What are some of those issues that are on their minds? What are some of the things that they're dealing with? If you can talk a little bit about what that student experience is like, that'd be really helpful. Dab, do you want to start us off?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Some of the themes, it's really hard because I certainly wouldn't want to generalize a student population, but I think it's important that at least aspects of what I might hear from students. I'm happy to share some of that based on the mentorship that I provide to students or just what I hear other students share with me about their peers. So one of the things that I think a lot of our students face, regardless of how they identify, is that Northwestern can be challenging for a variety of reasons, whether that's preparing academically, adjusting to what it's like to not maybe have the same sort of rigid schedule that you might be used to, living on your own. We already talked about the Chicagoland area and the changing temperatures, cost. So that's just a couple of factors that I think in general our students face. And then when we layer on identity, that's a whole nother range of issues that our students might experience. So what is it like when I might be the only person like me in a classroom? What if I have an accent that people may not understand? What if I can't afford to keep up with my peers when it comes to going out and having a social life or engaging in Greek life? Those are a lot of the questions that we hear our students ask time and time again. And one thing that I will say is that there are a variety of resources and aspects of support. And it's also okay to not always follow the majority and do what everyone else is doing too. Some of the other things that I would say that I specifically see with an MSA, some of our students have come from really diverse high schools, and then some have not. And so there's a bit of a culture adjustment, I would say, maybe not shock, but an adjustment. Some of our students are coming out for the first time. So they're trying on different labels, different forms of identity, and they're getting to know themselves potentially in a deeper and more intimate way than what they have before while navigating higher ed, right? While navigating coursework and joining organizations and finding internships. So for anybody, that would be a huge adjustment. And then the last thing that I would say is there's also a period of time, not for all students, but again, something that I often hear is, how do I prioritize my wellness while doing all of this? So what is it like for me to visit CAPS, our counseling and psychiatric services, and being able to meet with our brilliant therapists who are there? What is it like for me to connect with some of the other resources that maybe it's not a counselor on campus, but maybe it's one of our university chaplains. Maybe it's going to the Women's Center and going to one of their groups. But there are a lot of students who I think are still trying to figure out, what does taking care of me look like in this context? And maybe asking themselves for the first time, what is it that I need? And then how do I make the ask for those needs? So I would say that those are some of the themes that I've heard or seen. What about you, Kourtney?
Yeah, I think ditto to everything that Dav just said. Our populations are so incredibly diverse with so many different layers of identity. So it's hard to like pinpoint the one or two themes. But I will say the one thing to keep in mind is that we are on the quarter system. And that is just an adjustment for everyone, staff, faculty, and students. You're in 10-week quarters. That means it's just fast, right? You're starting and you're off to the races. And I think that academically is just an adjustment for everyone. And so I think I see students come in either underestimating what it means to be in a quarter system, and maybe getting too involved too quickly. So they're in 4 classes, then they're involved with all of these different student groups, and it's just really hard to balance everything. So I think just kind of take a deep breath and really ease into it, right? You're going to be here for 4 years. It's quality over quantity. So just really spend the time focused on your academics that first quarter. There are great resources in our Academic Support and Learning Advancement Office, or ASLA. They have study groups, they have tutoring support services, they even have like small cohorts that help you with study skills. That's another big one. I think that the way in which you're studying now and that you've been studying over the past 4 years is just really different in college, right? And so you have to really start figuring out what are the best strategies for you, right? It's not about just kind of rereading the chapter and rereading it until you get it. You have to really pay attention to what's clicking, right? Cognitively, like what's working for you, and ASLA can really help you figure that out. The other thing I will say, and this is kind of what Dav was talking about, if you do find that you're the only one, whatever that only one is in your class, right? Whether you're the only student of color, you're the only first-gen student, you can really start to think about what we call imposter syndrome and start second guessing yourself and thinking like, oh, like, you know, do I deserve to be here? Do I belong here? And the short answer is yes. Like, again, congratulations to all of you. You've just been admitted to one of the most competitive institutions in the country, and you earned your spot. So always remember that, and know that, you know, other folks, you might be comparing yourself to your peers and everyone seems to be like adjusting and not struggling, but everyone's struggling. You're in a totally new environment. Your first year on campus is going to be a ride, ups and downs, and just never second guess yourself. You all deserve to be here. You earned your spots, and just really try to remember that and reach out to our offices, because we will affirm you and uplift you and help remind you of that as you struggle.
Thanks. I think that's really powerful words about just some of the expectations and some of the things that all of us are dealing with. I know imposter syndrome that's definitely one of those things. Wow, my expectation of what this is going to be like is so different. But yeah, you're totally right that there's offices and people that want to support you. There's a quote that I just have recently heard on leadership, and I think it's nice to kind of tie into what you were saying, Kourtney, It says that life shrinks or expands in proportion to our courage. And I want you to know that even regardless of, courage doesn't mean that you're not going to face difficulties. Courage doesn't mean that you're not going to face hardships, but you are doing something so courageous by going to somewhere new, trying out different things, exploring your identity. And I hope that when you walk away from here, that you know that there are people that believe in you, that want to uplift that. And yeah, just to be courageous, but also to know that courageous doesn't mean that it always has to be everything under control. I know for me as a first generation college student, I was used to being in charge of everything, being able to handle everything. I could get the A's, I could do some part-time work. College is different. It's really fun, but it is totally different. So my little like piece to you all is with that also just give yourself some peace and give yourself some grace that things are going to be different, but also know you're not the only person that's going through that transition. It's a little bit different for everyone. Even if people are coming from Evanston, it's still a different community. So there's your inspirational quote. If you'd like, I can drop it into the YouTube channel later. I've just been trying to appreciate that and just want to note your courageousness. So we did have another quote, or we had another chat question from YouTube. And how is it that people would know if they do qualify for Books for Cats?
Yep, that's a great question. So financial aid uses your financial aid background, your package, all the information from FAFSA and CSS profile to determine who is eligible for that program. So they make that determination and then they send out the targeted messaging and information via email so that you have that information available. That's just one small piece of advice. Make sure you read your email. And I know you're getting probably slammed with tons of emails from lots of different folks across campus, all who are very eager to connect with you and engage you, but you really have to start figuring out a way to like stay on top of your email because so many resources come through, whether it's financial aid, whether it's from my office. So make sure you read your email because that's how you find out if you are eligible. I will say, we know that financial aid, that financial backgrounds and socioeconomic status can change quickly, right? Like this is a really, especially given the world we're living in, if someone loses a job, if somebody gets sick, all of these things can really impact your package. And so this is where, again, coming into our office, going directly to financial aid, you wanna make sure to share any changes in your financial background so that they're able to make adjustments and support you as you and your family may go through different challenges. So even if you didn't qualify, you can connect with financial aid to share any additional pieces of information that might not be reflected in your financial aid package.
Awesome. Rather than doing just like a question and answer, can I ask you all to think of maybe a student or someone that's come through your offices and maybe an experience that you've had over the past year or two, and maybe talk a little bit without going into all the privacy of the student, but can you talk a little bit about like how your office was able to work with the student, if there's any experience or story that really stands out as like, yes, this really gets to the heart of what we're about at MSA or what we're about at SES, and how our place at Northwestern, like one of those moments where you feel just glad that you were able to be at Northwestern and be able to work with those students. If you have a feeling or a story like that, that'd be cool to hear.
Yeah, I would be happy to share one that both Kourtney and I actually share. And then Kourtney, I'd be happy to hear one from you as well. So I'm thinking about a student, and forgive me if I get a little bit emotional as I'm talking about this, but I'm thinking about a student who's about to graduate, who identifies with our LGBTQIA+ population, and also identifies as first gen and is an independent student. And this is a student who we have both Kourtney and I have been able to see this student grow into their own during their time at Northwestern. And because of the resources that we have contributed in the relationship that we've built with the student has also advocated and paid it forward for other students with marginalized backgrounds. So the student has advocated for ability status and making sure that students, one of the things that they've been advocating for is really encouraging mental health days for students. This is also a student who has, will sing the praises of our departments, but also challenge us if there's ways that we need to improve and isn't afraid to tell us. So I think it's in being able to provide resources to the student who sat at the intersections of the offices that Kourtney and I serve, and being able to see them grow over time, see the ways that they pay it forward, put the good work out there to change Northwestern for the better. And I was looking forward to seeing them graduate in a couple weeks, because this is really a student who has left their tremendous mark on campus. And at the end of the day, you know, you smiled, Paul, when you were like, when you think of those students that you've had those interactions with, I smile because that student is so much more confident with themselves, ready to go out to take on the world, and certainly is proud of the work that they've done at Northwestern. So that's just one that I think of. What about you, Kourtney?
I know these are really great questions because, as Dav mentioned, like, we really get to know all of you over the 4-year period. And it's just, for me, that's what keeps me motivated and inspired to do the work, is to build meaningful relationships and to watch our students grow over the 4 years, and truly to watch them grow from year to year. I often see students leave after the first year and they go intern somewhere, have a summer research opportunity, and they're like a new person the next year, right? Like, just so much growth. And just kind of like life experience to watch that over time. I will say there's so many stories I could tell, but I think, again, this is a 4th-year student who I wanted to see graduate this year and who will graduate this year. But she is a student who came from a first-generation lower income background, Black female student, family immigrated from Sierra Leone, mixed status family, pre-med, was in the heart of that chem sequence. That for any of you who are going to take that, please sign up for the tutoring support before you even need it, side note. But she was in that whole, you know, she was in it. She was dealing with all of those issues and in one of the most academically rigorous programs her first year. And she was just struggling. I mean, she kind of just wandered in the office and was at a loss for even what to do and where to go for all the different supports that she needed. We were able to quickly get her connected and get her the resources that she needs. But to see how she's evolved and developed over the years is just really powerful. She went on to become a peer advisor. So these are the folks who run all of the Wildcat Welcome activities. Each of you will be matched with 1 or 2 peer advisors that work really closely with you throughout the first year. So she became a PA. She then became a Compass mentor. So she became a mentor in our program for 2 years in a row. She is like an extension of our office. We see her as like family within SES. She has just become a beautiful human in and out. She is headed to med school, but she wants to take a couple years off and maybe do social work. I'm hoping she does like an MPH, MD. She's going to be an amazing rock. She already is a rock star, but I think that kind of longitudinal experience and support over time is really what stands out, and just kind of walking it out with students as through those ups and downs, right? Through like the mess of I don't know where to begin, to like mentoring and uplifting all of these first-year students in her senior year.
Thank you for sharing both of those stories. I know just in your voices, being able to hear the connection and know all the different things that are involved in that relationship. Kind of, Kourtney, you mentioned both the ups and the downs, and obviously that's everyone's experiences. Just to kind of focus on some of the resources that are available, can you talk about if there's incidents of racism or homophobia or different microaggressions that occur on campus? What might a student be able to do with either of your offices to find connection or find a place to kind of talk through those experiences? And can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'm happy to. So one of the resources that I would encourage students to familiarize yourself with, and you'll hear plenty about it when you arrive to campus, is our bias incident response team. I am actually one of the members who is a part of that team. And should you experience some form of bias and or a microaggression, a macroaggression, even if you don't have the language for it, but your intuition just says this feels off, that's a place where you can report it. You can either report anonymously or you can go ahead and identify yourself. And it doesn't even have to be something that you personally have experienced, but maybe it's something that you've bear witness to. So something you observed, something you heard, something you saw, whether that's in person or even online, but really wanting to make sure that the point of the bias incident response team is really to reach out to students, identify what the issue is, and then see if there's any room for a resolution. So that's one place that I would recommend, and that's really around any sort of protected identity. So you name it, whether it's religion, age, sexuality, gender identity expression, race, ethnicity, nationality status, socioeconomic status, generational status, ability status, the list goes on. But really, it serves all of our students to make sure that this continues to be a place that's striving towards inclusion and community. Another office that I would recommend familiarizing yourself with, and that you'll hear again, is our Office of Equity. We have some brilliant colleagues who work there. One really quick shout out that I would give is to our colleague Kate, who does a lot of training. Some of her work is really training our campus around sexual misconduct, domestic violence, interpersonal violence, both of which maybe you've experienced or heard of before coming to campus, but certainly wanting to make sure that you have a resource when you are on campus. And some of the ways that our departments, both Kourtney's departments and my department, work with this is students will come to us and will say, I'm not really sure what this was or what happened. Can I talk to you about it? And we're like, of course you can. Sometimes a faculty member might have said something off, and even if they didn't mean it, it still landed on you differently, right? That's the difference between someone's intent versus their impact. And maybe you're looking for a trusted source to say, I'm really not sure. I don't want to be dramatic. I'm looking for some guidance on this, maybe some support. And that's where we really come in to help you navigate that system. Maybe you're too afraid to submit something and you need someone to help you submit it. Kourtney and I have done that too, walking students not only how to submit it, but sometimes submitting it on your behalf while still making sure that you remain anonymous. Some of the other things that we do, both Kourtney and I are part of a larger organization called Campus Inclusion and Community. And there's another office within that organization called Social Justice Education. And we have brilliant colleagues there who do a lot of outreach to the rest of the campus community to have conversations around power, privilege, oppression, really getting down to what are microaggressions and how do I intervene when someone is doing something biased, hateful, or harmful, whether they intend to or not. So that's social justice education, and I really recommend that you also familiarize yourself with that office.
Awesome. Thank you. That's really helpful. I just want to say before, as we're kind of getting towards the end of our time, that all the questions that are answered that are being asked in the YouTube chat, we're going to actually be gathering all of those questions and we're going to be answering them, and we're going to actually publish a PDF of our responses in the admitted student website. So if there's a question that we weren't able to get to today, we're going to still be able to answer that and you'll still be able to get that information. We really want to make sure that you feel like you are equipped with the right information. And as you've heard from both of these individuals, just some really amazing resources. So being able to kind of bring all those together, and even if we weren't able to answer it today, to be able to talk about that. Maybe what would be helpful is kind of just to think about, maybe if you can kind of think about one parting gift you would want to give to someone. It doesn't have to be, I know we've been very in our feelings in this presentation. I have a student affairs background, but maybe there's something that you want to just say as one final plug from you, from SES, from MSA. This would be a good chance, and then I'll wrap us up. So Kourtney, do you want to start?
Sure. It's so hard, like the one thing, but there's so many things, right? I think that Northwestern is a really wonderful, unique, complicated place to be that at the end of the day really cares for and centers students. As Dav mentioned, our campus inclusion and community team is filled with about 20 professional staff that are dedicated to centering your experience and really uplifting your your voices and your narratives, and making sure that that's spread throughout the campus community. We've got incredible colleagues on the academic side that are doing really great work as well. All of the 6 undergraduate colleges are all doing really interesting work, again, to center students. So I think that the parting word is that you would be entering a community that really cares about you and values who you are, right? And if not, we want to hear from you and we want to make it better. But just that there's so many talented individuals and talented staff and faculty that you would be joining. And you'd get to connect with Dav and me and our teams, which I think is also a huge plus. But just that, yeah, I think that we're doing really great work. We're not perfect, but we're doing great work, and we are getting better and better every year.
Thank you so much, Kourtney.
Wow, how do you follow that? Kourtney, we're just so lucky to have you here. And I think that would be part of my parting words to our students who are tuning in, that we're lucky to have you. I know many of you are probably feeling, gosh, I'm so lucky to be at Northwestern. This is my top school. This is everything I've ever dreamed of. I'm lucky to be the first in my family to go. I'm lucky to maybe increase upward mobility for my family. And all those things are true. And I also want to let you know that we are incredibly lucky to have you join us, to be a part of our community. Both Kourtney and I, we really got into this work because we know what it's like to be in your shoes, and we wanted to pay it forward. You're the reason why I get up and go to work every day. It's a joy to work with you, and I look forward to seeing you on campus. And even if we don't connect when you first get there, or even during your first year, that doesn't mean that we can't connect at any other time. No matter how high up someone is, no matter how busy a faculty member is or a staff member is, know that you are a priority. And once again, because we are so lucky to have you.
Awesome. Thank you both so much. I know that our time is wrapping up, so I just want to give everyone that's in the chat a few different things. I ask that you have some patience as I go through this. As you can tell, I'm not a YouTuber. If I had my choice, I would rather be a radio show host and you wouldn't see me, but you could just hear my voice. But a few final things for you. Like and subscribe on our channel if you want to get some more videos and live streams as they're happening. We are having a live question and answer on our Instagram. That Instagram handle is Northwestern Admissions. It's going to be starting at 5 o'clock this Friday with current Northwestern students that are going to be talking a lot about the different things that we've talked about here, but you'll actually get to hear it from Northwestern students. And then tomorrow, we also on our YouTube channel at 4 p.m. Central Time, we are going to have an AMA and Ask Me Anything with our senior student panel. So if there's a question that you want to ask that's not necessarily just for community inclusion or just for Res Life, you can talk to some seniors. They're a really great group of students that we have there, and that will be a great opportunity to do that. So once again, thank you all so much. Hope this was really informative to you, and we're really glad to be able to share this with you all. Bye.